to be part of. They're going to be part of our summit in Chicago, April 15th. Tickets available. And here's the other thing about this too. I spent a little time updating the agenda, and let's see. We're going to be having more information next week, especially around moderators, guests. We do know that we got a lot of brand folks coming in as well, including Anthony Reeves. Let's share this tab. There we go. So again, our first leadership summit presented by Arima. Indies Rising, building an unfair advantage for marketers. Anthony Reeves, as mentioned. Kohler right now, marketer at Kohler, and he's done a ton of stuff. He'll be our keynote, and that keynote is coming to us from Free Agent Payments. First break, blood, sweat, and tears. Those of you who are attending, you're going to be getting an email from us early next week because Blood, Sweat, and Tears is giving you some good homework to do. I'm not going to divulge too much, but it's going to be great for your biz dev efforts. Let's just put it that way. Again, Free Agent Payments, thank you so much for that. Path Labs, our OG preferred partner, Session 4, and then the aforementioned Goodway Group, our happy hour sponsor. Why is this not, why, I thought I had this on, but there you go. It's, you know what? It's Friday. One of our guests, Elizabeth, is going to explain we're retrograde is ending or something. I have to ask her here in a second. But anyway, indieagency.news. Go get your ticket. If you are a member, you get 25% off, and you can just reach out and we'll get that over to you. All right. Looking forward to this. Award season, one of the most asked about topics in the indie agency community. And heads up, if you are working on your ad age small agency entries, send them our way. We'll take a look. We've been doing a few of those recently. Most agencies approach it the same way every year. So enter a handful of categories at the last minute, maybe spend too much money and hope something sticks. Today, two people who know exactly how to fix that. Charlotte Williams, the co-founder of the Thought Partnership and former VP of Content and Editorial at Cannes Lions. Elizabeth Rosenberg, founder of the Good Advice Company. She treats awards as a core pillar of PR strategy. She's got Grand Prix wins at a couple of big shops. And she fought with Cannes to change the rules for judging interactive work and won. Together, they're going to walk us through some of the practical playbook things for indie agencies approaching award season, especially on a budget. Charlotte, I want to talk a little bit first about, you worked at Cannes and you had all this experience. For an indie agency that's never entered a major award show or has entered and gotten absolutely nowhere, where do they even begin to start?
How do they navigate it?
Yeah.
Very carefully. What I would say is that what I've realized, especially every year I write more and more awards and I work with more and more agencies who have never entered before. And I think the discipline, even putting your toe in the water, the discipline of writing an awards, pulling all the material you need to pull together to write an award is so good in terms of your learning and honing what judges are looking for and how to produce better creative work. It's such a rigorous process, and I think it's really helpful. But I think if you're not sure about how to enter, the best thing to do, honestly, is to send every piece of information you have about your work to the team at Cannes or at D&AD or whatever show it is, and they will help you define what category to enter. So, is seek help.
Right.
If you think you've got a piece of work that's potentially award worthy, obviously they're going to want you to enter it because they make money, but they will help you.
I mean, we do too, Yeah, I get it.
They will help you define what categories you could enter, or you speak to someone like me and Elizabeth who will equally do that. But yeah, it's not as scary as it needs to be.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, on your side here, You know, how does award strategy connect to a broader reputation?
I mean, I think the very first thing I would always tell everybody is start with your budget. I think awards can be very, very, very expensive. So be very strategic about where you're going to submit. There was an agency I worked with last year, and they had a great film, but the film was better use of music. They were not going to win in the film category because the competition was so steep, but they actually ended up doing really, really well in the music category. So it's like where else can we fit in and get like our most bang for our buck, especially if you're a small agency. The other thing that I always recommend to everybody too is to think about editorial awards. So ones that are connected to the trades,
right?
Because you will also then get additional editorial coverage, and that's going to be good for your AI optimization and your SEO.
Yeah. And so let's dig in. You both talk about category selection, and it's interesting because I was at Martin Agency, and obviously I was on the trade side, and you know, we have our top 40 classic. First deadline is April 3rd. But choosing the categories, and Charlotte, you know, you mentioned, you know, can be very helpful in this respect. I will say, in my experience, it's like you send one piece of work and I ended up getting 13 different categories, and I'm like, we don't have the budget for that. So walk us through how an agency should approach choosing categories. And Elizabeth, you've touched on this because, you know, you mentioned great film, probably in a better category. Where do most agencies get this wrong? Charlotte, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think first of all, you've got to define if the piece of work is more craft focused or more results focused, or, you know, essentially what your objectives were, which will help you define what entry category you're gonna put it through. And you've really got to sweat the categories. It's so important. It lives or dies by what category you enter. But you need to think about what you think is the most critical and the best part of your work. So I've just been looking at an entry that's quite integrated, and I mean, all campaigns are really now integrated,
right?
But those integrated categories are very competitive, right? So what was the bit of the campaign that really, really sung? And for this particular piece of work, it's the use of AI, actually, and the use of tech in what they produced. But is to really think about those elements. Which bit do you think stands out over and above? So Elizabeth mentioned use of music, and think about, is it craft or is it results? That will help you as well. But I think, yeah, it does really help if you're able to get some expertise on what categories you could enter, because it does live or die. I've seen work die in the jury room so many times because people are just like, it's a great piece of work, but they really shouldn't have entered it into this category.
Right. And there are some underrated. Boy, you got something going on there, Elizabeth.
I'm so sorry. There's literally a jackhammer in the yard, like right next door. I don't know what just happened. It has been silent for weeks.
Yeah, no.
I was like, what are you apologizing for? It's life. Like,
we all thought it would be my
feels
dog
on brand for this year, to be honest.
At first, I thought I was like, Charlotte, are you getting some work done? And then I muted Elizabeth, and I'm like,
literal jackhammer. I wish I could show you. This is
it's mortifying. Okay. So let's continue on with choosing categories. And in my experience too, with this, I was consulting an agency a couple few years ago, and the work was really, really good. The one piece that I thought was really interesting that I thought had a really good chance was production design. And sure enough, they ended up getting, you know, they got some heat. They did well with production design. Elizabeth, walk us through how to get, because you're right. They said this is the greatest film, and like, but it's probably this. How do you get people to understand and how they can condition themselves and train themselves to say, yeah, well, that's the one thing, but this subcategory is going to be better for us.
Sorry, I'm
you got
driving on the mic too. The main thing is, like, you have to know what other work is going on in the industry.
Yeah.
So you have to know what you're up against, right? And again, I go back to budget. Like, how much are you willing to spend? If you've got like unlimited funds and you want to throw it everywhere, by all means, go ahead. But that's just not realistic. So I also think like having your PR people and or an external person look at it and be like, oh, well, it could be interesting here. It's always the thing, just jackhammer, you're funny. It's always a thing that you're not going to be able to see yourself. But I also say that with clients when they're telling their own story. And when I work with clients for personal branding, like the story that we always think is the most interesting is actually the one that isn't. It's that, that one that we don't really know about. And if you want to win, that's kind of where you need to go is where are the categories that actually are showing something really new and interesting and innovative that we did versus like the same mold.
Right. And if Charlotte, going back to you and talking about being in the rooms, and I've been in these rooms, the element of surprise, talk a little bit about the behavioral things that happen when a jury is together, because if your work is covered in the press, awesome, cool, fantastic. Yet here comes this agency out of, Ghana or just something out of nowhere. Talk about the element of surprise and how that manifests in those rooms.
I mean, I think now most of the major award shows have done a good job of cultural context. It's always part of the category entry, right? Is if people don't understand that culture, explain why this is so funny or so apposite or so interesting or so good, that they do now make that a critical part of the entry form. But yeah, I think to your point, if you're judging work from 100+ countries, and of course there are social issues that judges just don't understand, they're just not privy to. But this is why I think it's really important to tell your story in clear and simple language, in a relatable way, and to make clear in that cultural context wording that make it really clear what you're trying to achieve. So I think I think your point around, sorry, I was just going to say about, the interesting insights. I think when I talk to clients, I say, talk to me as if I'm sort of your grandmother or your, a 4-year-old child, and tell me about your work. And that's often when you get the most interesting nuggets that they don't necessarily put in the entry.
Right.
That they first typed up, because they don't think, but then you think, wow, that's a little gem there, a little insight that's fascinating, that judges will love.
They're going to remember that one hook. They're going to remember the hook.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about it. Elizabeth, let's talk about awards as a core pillar of visibility. And there are a lot of agencies that treat it as maybe a side project. And one of the big bugaboos of this is the case study. So let's talk about what separates a winning case study to one that gets chucked into the pile.
If it is not,
no.
I know. I'm so sorry. If it is not interesting within the first 15 seconds, you're going to skip. It's just like any other ad that you're watching on YouTube or anything else that you're just like, ugh, God, ugh. So you need to have like why this is interesting out of the gate. And you need to, it's just like a headline that you were to write anywhere else. What is the clickbait of the case study? And I think everybody wants to get into here's the problem. And then here's what we did. And then here's all these fake numbers. And just like everything else that we're talking about, that we need to innovate, that we need to be doing things differently, I actually think the case study is a really interesting platform that we could completely flip on its head this year. And I don't know why we're not.
Yeah.
It will leave you memorable. Do you know what I mean? Like, we have nothing to lose at this point.
But consider this. It's a lot of what happens in this industry is baked in over decades, passed on, predictable. And I think that I agree with you. I agree with all of that, because on the when we were doing agency of the year. It was just like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. And now think about if you have to watch 100 of those.
Oh, I know.
I mean, that just
exactly.
is not fun. And then Charlotte and I, we talk about this too, but you're always going to get in a fight with your BA people as to like whether you need to license news and or music.
You
have to.
You have to.
Music.
Yes.
News, and you can find kind of like news and cultural things everywhere. To be honest, like that's just
it's mushy, but yes,
that's a little gray. Music is not an option, and we can make our own music now. So don't be using a top 40s hit and think that you're going to be able to get away with it, because it will be on a website somewhere, and then it will get a cease and desist, and then you will have to take it down, and you will have wasted all of that time and money.
And I've heard of, cut the check. Yeah, it's bad. It can be very, very bad.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Tinder swipe night, going back, Elizabeth. So when you were at 72 and working on that, I just know your style is that it was really interesting and good storytelling. And here's what was really, I'll just, peek behind the curtain. So what year was it? It was 2019. It was first year Martin won.
Yeah, 2019.
Okay. It was between them and Goodby. And I remember you were like, hey, we might not be, but I want you to look. And we were like, yep. Your first third of the year was amazing. Your third of the year was amazing. It was like that middle part where it was just, but I remember in the room, we all looked at each other and went, holy shit, that's an incredible presentation. If they had just had these couple of things going, it would have been a runaway, an absolute runaway. So maybe this is more about like storytelling and getting more into the style of storytelling as opposed to just laundry listing.
The swipe night is an interesting one. And I know you said at the beginning that I thought I didn't. I just want to say Jamie Reich is the best awards person in the industry, hands down. She was the one that was like, we cannot do this. This is not going to work. And for those of you who don't remember, swipe night was kind of a choose your own adventure on a phone. And it's just not interesting if you're looking at the case study by itself.
Yeah.
So we, and every awards, platform came back to us and they were like, no, you can't do this. And we were like, too bad. We have to figure out a way to do this. This is the future. Like, jump on the train. And we ended up getting phones that were preloaded with swipe night. So judges could actually experience the experience via a mobile device, which no one had ever done before. That was all Jamie. That was me figuring out budget as to how we were going to buy all these phones.
Right.
Thank God we did, because paid off. When it comes to the storytelling of kind of everything, I mean, that was a really big year and a fun year for 72. We had the Super Bowl spot for NFL. That was such a fun cover story experience. There was swipe night, and huge props to Matt Murphy, because again, they did everything very different. They hired screenwriters. It was just like a very cool way of doing things.
Yep.
And I looked back and was thinking about it. And it's funny because Julianne Pollock wrote a story did a YouTube podcast this week and wrote a story about what it takes to win A-list. And in it, she had said one of the most memorable A-list entries was somebody who said, like, we don't deserve to be your agency of the year. That should be white in, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't be considered. And that was, thankfully, I had somebody at the helm like Matt Jarvis, who was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. And 7 years later, that's still one of her most memorable entries. And I just think we have to think less about filling and checking that box
and trying to fill in like all the
how
words.
Everybody's done it.
Yeah.
And so much more about like, what is going to get somebody to be like, that's interesting. That's totally new and different. And oh my God, I can't believe they said that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
That's how you're going to tell your story. And I think especially with people, with agencies, get authentic, get transparent, get real.
Yeah.
Like, we are all people, and we are all in this industry knowing that we are at a massive like timeline shift of what things are going to look like moving forward. It's just not interesting if we keep doing it the same way we've always done it.
No, it's true. Charlotte, so you're a big proponent of like get the fluff out. And also you're
That's just Charlotte's personality in general.
pretty much.
No bullshit. I love it. Yes.
Pretty much.
Cut the fluff.
Right. But also the thing, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, metrics. And this always comes up. And you're a big advocate of not all metrics are created equal. What do judges really want to see and what makes them skeptical? It's pretty, we being on that side of it, we just look at it and it's like, to Elizabeth's point, like numbers are flying in and shit like that. And we're
they're flying everywhere.
I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. That happened.
So, I mean, I think absolutely. I mean, I don't think anyone, no judges who are worth their salt really care too much about impressions, or how many people it reached. It's about, it has to link back to your original goal, right? Which is generally, in most cases, going to be sales or growth, or category or market growth, whatever that is. But any vanity metric is just disregarded outright by most juries now. The other important thing is you need to contextualize your results. So your this campaign lifted your sales by 2% year on year, compared to, were there years where they were bigger? Did it grow just because, did this campaign, this pizza brand grow at the Super Bowl just because every year their sales grow during the Super Bowl, or did it achieve outsized results? So it's all about how you contextualize those results as well, rather than just writing them down. You need a story around those results. I think that's really critical, and most people just miss that out. Yeah,
and this goes back to my contention that somewhere in this process, or for Charlotte, process, that somebody's been taught a certain way that's been done before, and that's dangerous. But if an indie's sitting here right now with great work and a limited budget, and let's just make this a little more bullet pointy. What should they do first, second, and third? Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you on that.
I think the very first thing is decide if awards are for you or not. Is it going to be better is it going to be better for you to go to a conference and see more people? In the end, people need to decide if awards you're doing for yourself and for the people within your company and your culture, or are you doing it for new business? Mm-hmm. So that's the very first thing I would do. And then I would be very selective. I would pick the ones that are going, if it is for new business, the ones that are going to move the needle the most. Again, I would pick one that is creative and one that's editorial.
Yep. Charlotte, don't say ditto.
No, set a very clear budget. What's your realistic budget? Is it $5,000? Great. Be rigorous about what award shows you think you've got a realistic chance. Get a second opinion, definitely, either from someone, from another agency, a friend, a consultant, the awards teams, and then sweat less rather than enter more. I know they say enter more because you've got more of a chance, but honestly, my advice is to really sweat it over a small number of entries and lots of different entries, because it refines your process anyway, and it helps you create better work the next time.
Yeah. Can we just see your nails again, please, before we finish up? Oh my God.
I know. I was going to text you about them, Charlotte.
I'm very colorful today.
I know. It's very springy. Very, very springy.
It is. Okay. So it is the first day of spring. Spring equinox.
It is the first
Mercury's
day
out of retrograde. Yeah, it's all happening.
It's a happy day, and the sun is shining in London. So
yeah, which is always a bonus. Well, this was great. A lot more to cover, and we will provide contact information for Charlotte and Elizabeth when we post this wrap. I'm going to put you both backstage, but thanks so much for joining us. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. A reminder. The first Indie Agency News Leadership Summit, new venue. It is Moonlight Studios. It's very close to where we were at Schaefer Condon Carter. All that information is at indieagency.news. I think we got like 40 tickets left, something like that. And if you are a member, there's a way to get in touch with us so that we can get you your discount. Let me see. What else do we have anything else going on? I don't think we do. You know what? It's the weekend. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. On behalf of everybody at Indie Agency News, I'm Doug Zanger. See you next week, everybody.